There are times in which we look at people and then we make this assumption about people. For there is a saying that says the first impression is the lasting impression. But what do we do, Mama, when the first impression is not necessarily a good impression? What do we do when the first time you meet somebody, that first impression is nowhere near good, it's nowhere near overwhelming, but it's more on the negative side? How do we fight the tendency to be judgmental? How do we fight that temptation to be lazy and accept what everybody else has already said about somebody? How do we fight that temptation to be lazy and say that because the reputation came to us in a sordid manner, dirty and clean, that this person must, everybody else is saying this about this particular person, so they must be like this? Well, I think that one of the things that we can do as individuals is do our homework. Is to take the time to get to learn the person. And by learn, I'm not talking about that outer shell, that facade that we put up. You guys know what I'm talking about when you meet somebody, they got this hard encasing around them. And as you're trying to talk to them, you realize that all you're doing is you're talking to their exterior, you're talking to the walls, and the words that you're saying are bouncing off of them, and they're coming right back at you. And every time you begin to say something to them, they have some type of defensive remark back to you where they're not going to allow you on the inside of their heart. They're constantly defending themselves and trying to make themselves look like somebody that they're really not. So then that makes you have to work hard to pull back the onion, so to speak. Makes you have to work hard to peel away all that other mess so that you can try to figure out, who is this individual? What are they about? What are some of the things that are embedded within their heart? What type of person is this truly? I heard what they said about them, but who are they? What makes them tick? And one of the things that we have to do in order to do that homework is we have to be willing to extend grace. A little mercy, some forgiveness, and a whole lot of patience. Because to really get to know somebody, it takes time. It's not one of those things where you just engage in a simple conversation and you really get to know. You only know what they want you to know. But it takes time to peel back that onion. All those layers, the pain that they may have experienced, the aggravation they may have experienced, the good times, the things they went through in their childhood, all those various different experiences in which they've had, so that you can get to know them for the individual that they truly are. Well, that's what we're going to do on today. We have not homework, but classwork. Because we're looking at a lady by the name of Rahab. And when you see her name in the Bible, a lot of times it comes with the moniker or the tag, the harlot. Rahab the harlot. But we're going to take a look at this lady and see who she truly, truly is. Amen? let's jump into the story. So as we look at this text, the author of Hebrews says that by faith, Rahab the harlot did not disappear, or she was not destroyed like the other ones, because she saved the spies. The part I want you to emphasize right there is where it says Rahab the harlot. Now hold up. Before your mind goes there already, hold up. Because even as I looked at this, I was like, why in the world is a harlot a woman of the night, a woman with a sordid past, a woman, most of the people in the community are really not going to like. And if they like her, it's not because of good reasons. Why is she in the faith hall of fame with the like of Abel and Enoch and Abraham and Sarah and Moses and Joseph? Why is she in the Bible with all these? Why is she in this faith hall of fame with all these other people? Because she's not defined by her profession. Is what she doing wrong? Yes. Is it sinful? Yes. But she is not defined by her profession. It's not the epitome of who she is. It's not the essence of who she is. It's just something that she does. It is not the defining moment in her life. Think about that. Think about some of the people that we've already talked about. Abraham lied on numerous occasions about who Sarah really was. She's my sister. No, she ain't. She your wife. Sarah laughed when they told her she was going to have a baby at 100 years old. But that was not the defining moment of her life. Moses killed an Egyptian at an early age, but that was not the defining moment of his life. Peter denied Christ 3 times, but that was not the defining moment of his life. These great men and women went on to do great and mighty things. That one act was not the defining moments of their life. And I think that many of us in here need to say the same thing. That the thing that we have done, that crazy thing that we have done, that despicable thing that we've done, that thing we did that we know we had no business doing, that's not the defining moments of my life. That lie I told, that cheating I did, that stealing I did, that promiscuous behavior, that abortion, that adultery, all that stuff is not the defining moment of my life. I did it, yes. Was it wrong? Hey, baby, yes. But it is not the defining moment of my life. There's more to me than that thing. Rahab was not defined by that mess. There was more to her, and there's more to you. God says, I see you, and I know that there's more to you than that thing you did. I don't like what you did. It was wrong. You had no business doing it. I wish you had to put your trust in me. I wish you had to look towards me for your help, but you decided to do things on your own, and you did something that's bad. You did something that's horrible. You've hurt people. You've lost confidence in yourself. You stained your own reputation. I still love you. Because I see you as somebody that's more than that act. The composite of who you really are extends beyond that mess hiding in your closet. That mess that you keep trying to push clothes on the door, it keeps wanting to come out. And it wants to come out every time you try to move forward in life. You remember what you did back, you remember that dirty, nasty thing you did back there? You remember those words that you said back then? You remember how you used to be? Yeah, I remember. But I'm trying to move forward in the things of God. But sometimes the things of the past want to keep us from moving forward in the things of God. But I got to ask you a question here. What do you see? When you look at yourself, what do you see? Do you see the thing that you did in the past? Or do you see the beautiful creature that God has created you to be? Mm-hmm. Do you see that you are head and not the tail? Above and not beneath? Do you believe that you are of a royal priesthood? That you've been wonderfully and magnificently made, that there's greatness on the inside of you, that your God does not make any junk. Yes, I did something, it was horrible, but it was not the defining moment of my life. There's life after that mess. Mm-hmm. There's life after that mistake. There's life after that lie. There's life after the adultery. There's life after the abortion. There's life. Was it wrong? Yes. But I'm not defined for what I did in the past. There's grace for that. There's mercy for that. There's forgiveness for that. Now, society doesn't want to issue us any of that stuff. Society says, let me write them off. Mm-hmm. Won't get that promotion because of something they did. Won't be able to go here because of something they did. Can't go forward in this area of your life. Let me tell you about them. Every time you talk about them, you mention what they did. You know Jane who did X, Y, Z. Johnny, you know Johnny. Look, you know Johnny, the one who used to do. But that is not the defining moment of our life. Society says that. But I believe in what God says. And God says something totally different. So Rahab has this moniker, this tag, his hashtag, so to speak, attached to her that says the harlot. But that's not who she really was. Let's look at the text and let's figure out who she really is. And to do that, we really got to go to the book of Joshua in that second chapter. And in Joshua, the second chapter, Joshua sends out the spies into the land. And he says, go research the land. All the way out there to Jericho. Go check out the land. And when you get there, bring me back a report. They go and they begin to search out the land. And as they're going to research the land, they come to this walled city by the name of Jericho. And they climb their way up the walled city of Jericho to the house of a person by the name of Rahab. Now, when they get there, word gets back to the king that the spies are in the land. So as you look at Joshua, the second chapter, Dexter, it will say that the spies were in the land and the people went out and told the king what was going on. The king sends forth men to check him out. And the men come to the area and look at what happens. Look at Joshua, the second chapter. Look at what it says right here in verse number 4. But the woman had taken the two men and hidden them. And she said, yes, the men came to me, but I did not know where they were from. It came about when it was time to shut the gate at dark that the men went out. I do not know where the men went. Pursue them quickly, for you will overtake them. But she had brought them up to the roof and hidden them in the stalks of flax which she had laid in order on the roof. So the men pursued them on the road to the Jordan to the fords. And as soon as those who were pursuing them had gone out, they shut the gate. So the king has sent his men, and the men are standing right there at the house of Rahab, and they say, send out those men, those ones that are hiding. We're here to arrest them, to apprehend them. Rahab says, men? What you talking about? Oh, I didn't know those men. I didn't know they were spies. But listen, they left. They're gone. I think they went through the gate already. If you go now, you can catch them. But before all of this had taken place, Rahab had struck a deal. And she had already had a conversation with these spies. Look at that conversation. Look at what she says. Next slide, Nehemiah. Now before they lay down, she came up to them on the roof and said to the men, I know that the Lord has given you the land, and that the terror of you has fallen on us, and that all the inhabitants of the land have melted away before you. For we have heard how the Lord dried up the water of the Red Sea before you when you came out of Egypt, and what you did to the two kings of the Amorites who were beyond the Jordan, to Sihon and Og, whom you utterly destroyed. When we heard it, our hearts melted, and no courage remained in any man any longer because of you. For the Lord your God, he is God in heaven above and earth beneath. Rahab believed. Rahab believed in God. She says, I've heard about this God that you serve. And we heard that you were over there in Egyptian bondage for about 400 years. And then that God that you serve came along and sent a series of plagues upon the children of Israel. Upon the Egyptians. And then, when Pharaoh still wouldn't let them go, that when Pharaoh began to chase you guys, we heard that your God parted the Red Sea and allowed you to come through on dry ground. Then after you had gone through and the Egyptians tried to go through, the waters began to collapse and to wipe. We heard about this powerful God that you serve. And then we heard about that when you went against the Amorites, that your God just utterly destroyed them. We've heard about your God. And when we heard about him, we were afraid. Because we know that your God has given you this land. And because your God has given you this land, we are petrified. But she says, I believe that your God is the God in heaven, and he's the God on earth. I put my trust in your God. She believed. Now, did she tell a lie? Yes, she lied. But don't get so caught up in the lie that it blinds you to who she truly is. She believed in God. And because she believed in God, she took action. She didn't sit still and hope things were going to take place, but Rahab took action. And if you really think about that, isn't that more than what the children of Israel did themselves? Think about that. Think about that. Think about what happens in Numbers, the 13th chapter. Let's put the pieces of the puzzle together. Remember, think about this. Now think about this. Think about the children of Israel. They were on the doorsteps of the promised land, And they're ready to go out. And what does God tell them? Send forth spies into the land. When they get ready to send forth spies, they send out 12 people. 2 come back with a favorable report, Joshua and Caleb. The other 10 come back with an unfavorable report, and they say, let's go back. We'd rather be in Egyptian bondage than to go over here and die in this land. But look at Rahab. Rahab is already in the promised land. And when she has an opportunity to receive the spies, the people who are coming to take the land, she has enough faith that God is going to take the land that she takes action. But the question I've been wrestling with was, why? What would make her take action but not the children of Israel? What life lesson can we learn from Rahab, mama, that we could not learn from the... I mean, they were right there. What did they do wrong? Let me show you what happens. Next slide, Nehemiah. Look at what it says in Numbers 13 about the children of Israel. It says, then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, send out for yourself men so that they may spy out the land of Canaan. Look at what it says in the highlighted part. Which I am going to give to the sons of Israel. You shall send a man from each of their fathers' tribes, every one a leader among them. All right, now jump down. Look at what it says in verse 32. So they gave out to the sons of Israel a bad report of the land which they had spied out, saying, the land through which we have gone and spying it out is a land that devours its inhabitants. And all the people whom we saw in it are men of great size. There also we saw the Nephilim, the sons of Anak, are part of the Nephilim, and we became like grasshoppers. We became like grasshoppers. If I was y'all, I like that part. When we became like grasshoppers in our own sight. And so we were in their sight. God says, I am going to give you the land. But when they go and they come back with their report, they said there's no way we can defeat the people who are already in the land. For we are like grasshoppers in our own sight. So we must be like grasshoppers in the sight of the enemy. So they are going to utterly destroy us. But look at what Rahab says. I know that the Lord has given you the land. I know that the Lord has given you the land. And that the terror of you has fallen on us, and that all the inhabitants of the land have melted away before you. She believed that the Lord was going to give them the land, the same God who done the mighty things. We got to do 2 things here. I wasn't going to play on the first. We're going to do it anyway. Look at this. Look at this. Look at the mentality of the children of Israel. They said, we know that we are like grasshoppers in your sight. But look at what Rahab says. That the terror have fallen upon us and that all the inhabitants of the land have melted away before. She says, we were scared of you. You scared of us. We are scared of you. That's just a quick lesson right there. Sometimes we think about what other people think about us. And we think that they are better than us. That they got something on us. That there's something different about them than it is about us. And they're sitting on the other side looking at us saying the same thing. But we won't go get the blessing that God has for us because we are more concerned about them than we are about us and about what God can do through us. And because they were more concerned about these people over here who are already shaking in their boots about them, they did not get what God had for them. Y'all got this part? sometimes the people you are afraid of, the situation you are afraid of, the stuff that you don't want to encounter is more afraid of you than you should be of them. Listen. Let God be true. Right. What they're not getting here, which is the second part, God says, I am going to give you the land. Rahab believed that God was going to give them the land. The difference between the two is the substance of their faith. Remember what we said now? The definition of faith? Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. What's the substance? God. So when God told the children of Israel that he was going to give them the land, they looked at their own sight and said that we're like grasshoppers. Their faith was in their own ability, in their own skills, in what they could do as an individual, in their limitations. He says, I don't have what it takes for me to defeat this. There's an enemy over there. They're big. They're bad. We don't have what it takes to defeat them. Rahab looked at the situation and says, your God, the one who delivered you from Egyptian bondage, the one who defeated the kings of the Amorites, he has already given you the land. And because he has already given you the land, we are petrified of it. Her faith was in God. Their faith was in their own ability. And because they had their faith in their own ability, it limited them in what they could do for God. And some of us are unable to get to where we are trying to go because we keep looking at our own limitations. God says go, but because we look at our own limitations and our own inadequacies, we don't go and do what he says to do. There's no way I can do that. And you're right. There is no way that you can do it but God. He just needs us to put our faith in the right substance. Not ourselves and our limited ability, but in him. But God, there's no way I can defeat cancer. You're right. There is no way you can defeat cancer. But God, there's no way I can overcome this depression. You're right. There's no way you can do it. But God, there's no way my relationship is going to be restored. You're right. There's no way you can do it. But if you begin to put your faith in me, I'm the substance of your faith. Your faith by itself has no power. Your faith only has power according to the object of what you put your faith in. If your faith is in this chair is powerless to make the changes that you need. But if you put your faith in God, he has the power to make all of the changes. We put our trust in him. Rahab was a woman of faith. She believed in God. She trusted God. And accordingly, she acted. And if you look in the book of James around the 2nd chapter, it says that as a result, she was justified by her faith. He's saying she took action. I'm sorry, I quoted it wrong. It's justified by her works. She's justified by her works, not by her, just by her faith. Because in that chapter, he's talking about faith and works. And he's saying you can't have faith without works. They work together. And he utilizes Rahab as an example to say, if you're going to have faith, be like Rahab. Rahab took action and she hid the spies, but knowing that God was going to come through. Y'all with me? So then a question may come up in your mind, because it came up in my mind. God, what about this lie? All right. She's in this Faith Hall of Fame. I understand what you're trying to say. I understand I shouldn't look at her as a harlot and allow that to be the defining moment in her life and all that good stuff. But God, as she executed her faith, she lied. So was that really faith? Or was she just doing her own thing? I want you to look at it from this perspective. Who are we talking about here? Think about who Rahab is. Rahab is a Gentile. Rahab has not been to Miss Mary's Sunday school class. So she probably doesn't really understand all of the ramifications behind the lie. Does she know lying is wrong? Yes, of course, everybody knows that. But does she really understand the moral and spiritual implications behind her lie? Would she really understand that when she lies to somebody, there's also an offense to the God in which she put her faith in? That's just not this random tale that you throw out there, but it's an offense to the God who says, thou shalt not lie. She probably doesn't always know all that stuff. So I believe this is what is happening, that God meets her where she is. That God looks upon this Gentile who says, I believe in you. This rough around the edges Gentile who says, I believe in you. I don't have all of my theology right. I don't have all of my faith stuff right. I can't quote all that stuff in the Bible and all those scriptures and all that stuff. But I believe in you. So I believe God says, I'm going to meet you where you are, and I shall justify you according to your actions. And he meets her, and he says, you are saved. Not just physically, but spiritually. Now, did he need her to tell that lie in order to save the spies? No. He didn't need her to do that. He could have saved them any old kind of way. But he says, I'm going to meet her where she is. And as I meet her where she is, I am going to utilize this as a tool. And there are some of us with some stuff. Going back to that stuff in our closet again. And some of that stuff that we got stuffed away in our closet, and it's been sitting there, and we're trying to get rid of that mess that's in our closet. Keeps trying to push its way out. We keep trying to move it out the way. There's some of us with some stuff in our closet that's holding us back. And it has become a frustration for us because we are allowing it not only to define us, but we are allowing it to stop us from moving forward in him. Mm-hmm. We are allowing it to take us around the path and not take us to where we're trying to go. Rahab was not defined by the mess. She wasn't defined by the act in which she did. But Rahab made a choice. And she took action. And as she began to take action, things began to take place. Did she lie? Yes. But the lie was not the defining moment. Did she have a bad past? Yes. But the bad past was not her defining moment. There was something else about Rahab. Rahab was a woman of faith. She believed in God. She trusted God. And as a result, she took action. So here's my question. Will you forgive you? Because some of us, that stuff in our closet, we won't even forgive ourselves for the stuff that's stuff over there. God says, I forgive you. It's not the defining moment in your life. I see the intent that was on your heart. And there's a difference between the intent and your actions. Yes, you should not have done that. Yes, that was poor execution, but I see the intent on your heart. And I'm going to honor the intent that was on your heart. I saw you had good intentions, but things just got away from you. And the situation got a little heated. And you said something you had no business saying, and you did something you had no business doing. I see the intentions on your heart, but the execution was poor. But will you forgive yourself? Mm-hmm. Yeah, you should not have done that, but will you forgive yourself? Yes, there was another way in which that could have been done, but will you forgive yourself? Yes, you hurt some other people, but will you forgive yourself? Because I have forgiveness for you. God says, I have grace for you. I have mercy for you. I have things I want to do with you, but first I need you to forgive yourself enough so that I can use you. Stop beating yourself up. Stop living in the past, but forgive yourself. Stop letting people define you that way, remind you all the time. That's not who I am. Stop letting society tell you that you can't be somebody because of what you did in the past. That's not who you are. God has greatness for you. In spite of what happened, there's greatness for you. We have to believe that God has the greatness. And stop trying to push that door closed. And if the door comes open and the mess falls out, that's good. Yeah, that's my mess. That's who I used to be. But it's not to define the moment in my life. It's not going to continue to define me. It's not going to hold me back. It's not going to be an anchor around my leg. It's not who I am. I'm transparent. And because I'm being transparent, I'm not giving you the power to use that stuff in my closet against me. I'm taking my power back, Jasmine. Mm-hmm. That's the mentality that we have to have, Miss Yvonne. I'm taking my power back. Mm-hmm. You've been using that against me for a long time, Satan. I'm taking my power back. Mm-hmm. Society, you've been using that against me for a long time. I'm taking my power back. My so-called friends keep using that against me for a long time. I'm taking my power back. You can't use that against me. Here it is. I did it. I own it. But I believe that that's not the defining moment of my life. God has something different for me.